Good morning again, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about picking and choosing. Some of you will recognize that. The great way is not difficult, just avoid picking and choosing. It's the first two lines of a very well-known and well-used Zen poem. Zen has been, so last Thursday my talk was on the Sandakai, which is another Zen poem, and next week it's on Zazen Wasan, which is another Zen poem. So I've got kind of Zen in the house right now. So thought I'd talk about a couple of koans, and I have my big blue book here, which I'm going to go to. But first, what is a koan? So most of you have got some sense of what a koan is, but I'm going to be talking in the context or construct of koans. So briefly, a koan is a technology that is used in meditation practice, in simple terms. The way it works, typically these are exchanges between individuals. Classically, they're medieval Chinese Zen masters. And there's these exchanges, these little pithy dialogues that expose deep insight into the truth of the world we live in, into reality. And by holding this koan, by holding this inside, just reciting it, a key line again and again, something stalls, something logical stalls, and the opportunity for non-logical, non-dual insight opens up. So that's what these things do. So a couple of for instances to get us going. One of my favorite koans, which Charles used quite a lot recently, is two monks high on a mountain in China. One of them's got out his little cloth and he's putting all his goodies in his cloth and he's going to tie the corners together, and that's his bag. And the other guy says to him, "So, what are you doing?" He says, "I'm going on a pilgrimage." "Where are you going?" "I don't know." Not knowing is most intimate. This not knowing sounds kind of strange, but what do we really know? My personal favorite example of this is I don't know my wife. I really don't. Because if I know my wife, she can never surprise me. She can never make me laugh. She can never grow. She can never change. To know somebody is to put them in a box. It's to create a prison. And I can know an idea of my wife, but I can't know my wife. But that is profoundly intimate. Being there in that space of not knowing is really beautiful. Not knowing is most intimate. Another one many of you have heard me use before is there's a window, and the ox breaks the window with his head and gets his head through, gets his front legs through, gets his shoulders through, and he's pulling himself on through. Can't get the tip of his tail through the window. What's that about? Well, the tip of the tail is the last little bit you really can't see, and in this practice there's this idea of letting go and letting go. Ajahn Chah, who's a Thai forest master, says, let go a little bit of freedom. Let go a lot, get a lot of freedom. Let go completely, complete freedom. It's that completely that's the problem. How do we deal with that last little tail, which we can't see? Don't even know it's there. So the koan is pointing at that. I'm not a Rinzai practitioner, or I'm not a Rinzai teacher, so I don't know like the key. I don't have the secret decoder ring, so I don't have the key. But that's what it's pointing at. It's pointing at this last little thing that we don't even see, that we can't. It's just really hard to let go of. That's the sound of two hands clapping. What's the sound of one hand? Bruce. That's the sound of one hand, that's the sound of one. What is the sound of one hand? What is this pointing at? Are there really two hands? The left hand and the right hand. They're part of the same thing. Bruce and I we're part of the same thing, right? Are there really two hands? Again, I don't have the decoder ring. I don't know what you do when you go to Sanzen and sit down with your master and have to answer the koan. But that's what it's pointing at. It's pointing at this. There's two and yet there's not. And it's not denying two hands, but it's not seeing clearly what they are. So with that, not picking and choosing, out comes the big book. well worn, lots of scribbled notes in it. All right, so case 57. What is that? The Lord's Prayer bookmark. Case 57 out of the Blue Cliff Record. This is one of the classic Zen collections of koans. A monk asked Joshu, "The ultimate path has no difficulties. Just avoid picking and choosing." What is not picking and choosing? Joshu said, "In the heavens and on earth, I alone am the honored one." The monk said, "This is still picking and choosing." Joshu said, "Stupid oaf! Where is the picking and choosing?" And the monk was speechless. Which is how they usually end something like that. Somebody's just flabbergasted, right? Because this is pointing at something that is beyond words, and you get stuck beyond words because you can't articulate what's beyond words. There's a not being able to see what's beyond words, which is the case here, or there's just a not being able to articulate it. So again, I can't answer this, but I can help show what this is pointing at, and what it's pointing at is what's important here, or what I think is important here. So, in the heavens and on earth, I alone am the honored one. In this tradition, that's what Buddha said. After he was born out of his mother's side, he walked 7 steps, and he pointed up and down, and that's what he said. It's like this mystical idea. The heavens and on earth. This is the absolute and the relative, the manifest and the unmanifest, the born and the unborn. These are the 2 realms. In those 2, I alone am the honored one. Who is this I? This I is everything and nothing. This I is compassion. This I is wisdom. The monk said, still picking and choosing. He thought Chu was pointing at himself or at the Buddha as an incarnate human being. He's pointing at something that's beyond, that 2 hands, 1 hand. It's both and neither. So he's pointing at this, that which is in the heavens and on the earth, that which is in the absolute and the relative, that which is born and unborn. What does that even mean? You can't answer it logically. It's got to come from here. That's what this is pointing at. Second one. A monk asked Joshu, so this is the 58th case. These are the 3 sequential cases in here, which is kind of interesting. A monk asked Joshu, the ultimate path has no difficulties, just avoid picking and choosing. Isn't this a cliche for people of these times? See how it's a risk of becoming one, can't we? Chu said, once someone asked me, and I really couldn't explain for 5 years. So this is more subtle, much more subtle. Isn't this a cliche for people of these times? We've landed in words, we've landed in the place of just an exchange of words. And the question is kind of stuck at that level of being stuck in words. So the answer is leaping out of the words. It's saying, basically, you can't answer this. And it's leaving that. The Buddha in the Pali Canon never called himself Buddha, he called himself Tathagata, the thus come, thus gone. That avoids calcifying Buddha as a human being, as an individual. There's something there that is in this space of both and neither or. So Tathagata, thus come, thus gone, there's a series of questions that he will put aside, because they're not, number one, they're not answerable, and number two, trying to answer them is just simply not helpful. Does a Buddha exist after he dies? Does a Tathagata exist after he dies, he or she? Can't answer. Does the Tathagata not exist after death? Can't answer. Does the Tathagata both exist and not exist? Does the Tathagata neither exist nor not exist? If you're putting those aside about after death, what does that say about here and now? There's this mysterious, utterly mysterious thing, which is this awakening thing, which is both here and not here. Neither here nor not here. Two hands and one hand. You can't answer the question, what's the sound of one hand? Maybe that is the answer. Right? But it's not an intellectual answer. We're not doing very well over here at answering. We're not making much noise. Alright, 59th case. And then I'm out of koans for now. I'll come back another time with more, for right now. A monk asked Joshu, the ultimate path has no difficulties, just avoid picking and choosing. As soon as there are words and speech, this is picking and choosing. So how do you help people, teacher? Joshu said, why don't you quote this saying in full? The monk said, I only remember up to here.
Remember what?
I only remember. Yeah. I only remember up to here. Joshu said, it is just this. The ultimate way is without difficulty, just avoid picking and choosing. So what's going on there? The monk was framing the question intellectually from rote. There's another example which is comes out of a Zen monastery. The abbot sees two of the priests in the Buddha hall offering incense and bowing, and he gets his broom, literally gets his broom, and he just sweeps them out. Get out, get out, get out, get out. What are you doing? You know. So then, a few days later, they see the abbot in there, lighting incense, lighting a candle, doing his prostrations. They said, what are you doing? You just swept us out. He said, this is just the way I practice my devotion. The difference is, in the first case, he could tell from the way that these guys were doing it, they were kind of aping it. They were practicing it. It was rehearsed. He came in, there was nobody there. It was pure heart that was doing this. So in this story, the monk said, you know, how do you teach? And he said, say it in full. Knowing full well he didn't know it in full. But it was a rehearsed question. Right? And so the answer is, it's already there, but it's just spontaneous. And these koans, the idea is when you go through that relationship with the teacher, the answers are all spontaneous answers. They're looking for your insight. They're looking that you actually get it. You get the teaching point. But then they're also looking for this absolutely spontaneous answer, one that clearly hasn't been rehearsed beforehand. You go in there and it's just an expression, just this natural flowering. So I'm going to read a couple of little bits. I've got another book. I don't often bring books in on Sundays, but I brought this one in, which is Hsing Yen is a Chan master, and I love his writing. He's wonderful. So as you can see, the poem, 2, 4, 6 pages long. It's quite a long poem, and in many Zen centers they will chant this every week or two quite regularly. So just a couple of excerpts from this. Because of grasping and rejecting, you cannot attain it. Do not pursue conditioned existence. Do not abide in acceptance of emptiness. So don't chase this, but don't retire into nothingness and just stay there. In the Pali Canon, there's a sutra about how did you cross to the other shore, and Buddha said, by not standing still and by not pushing forward, I crossed to the other shore. How did you do that? Well, when I stood still, I sank, and when I pushed forward, I got caught in the current. So by neither pushing forward nor standing still, I crossed the flood. Not logical, but it's the same point. It's the same point. We can't stand still in either place. It's seeing the fullness of all of this together. In the Dharma realm of true suchness, there is no other, no self. To accord with it is vitally important. Only refer to not to. Right? Not to. I've lost it. Here we go. We just chanted the Heart Sutra, which you will recognize something very similar to this from. Existence is precisely emptiness. Emptiness is precisely existence. So, just avoid, true way is not difficult, just avoid picking and choosing. The way we normally engage in that phrase is to, pick something here. I prefer this bell to this bell. No, I don't. They're both just equally nice, right? It's on a material level of, do I have this to eat or that to eat? And that's important. This is not to gainsay that, and there are plenty of phrases in this which also point at picking and choosing at that level, which is the doing this in our everyday lives, not getting stuck on things in our everyday life. But the deeper message of this, which really comes through in here, is also the message of the Sandakaya, which I talked about on Thursday last week. There's a talk on that if you wanted to. It's all on our YouTube channel. But it's the same message, which is don't get stuck in emptiness. Don't chase after stuff. So with that, I will stop talking.